finally get Lannon alone.
Excellent.
He looks really nervous.
So many things to talk about. It's really upsetting. I think I just look at him and I just sit down in a chair and just give it a big sigh. It's been a very bad day. 2 days. I don't even know anymore, honestly, Lannon.
Do you want me to heal you a little bit?
I mean, honestly, yeah.
He says, he looks kind of tense and awkward, just pretty much like you. He says, alright. And as he you sat down in a chair, he goes around behind the chair. He lights up his hands with healing magic, and, healing magic, there's a reason people, even, the stringest mage haters will, make a caveat for healers. And because healing magic feels so nice. It feels like sinking into a hot bath. It really feels good.
Yeah, that checks out. I think as he does it, I'm reminds me a little bit of the first time we met.
Oh god, can we not talk about this?
Fine. We have a lot to talk about. And the first thing we need to talk about is what's in the spirit that's inside me.
Justice, right?
Justice.
What about him?
It's not just me. It's Elyan, and it's also Cassandra. Only theirs are compassion and faith.
Yeah, I know. Dorian gave you the rundown.
Mm-hmm. Think about those words in Elvish.
He pauses a minute and then he says, oh shit. Anari Skeldoran Dernto. It could really be them.
I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm pretty sure it's related to how this all started. Did Dorian ever tell you? He did, right? About how we went back to the scene of the crime and we found a piece of paper. The piece of paper had the word Bonsarala, and it had Anara, Skelderon, and Derntal on it.
And then Dorian sent a message to me asking after it.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, he finishes healing you as best he can. He heals you for 9 points of damage.
Aw, that's I'm almost healed entirely. That's actually very sweet. I give a sigh of relief, I think.
He comes around, you're sitting at the desk chair, and he comes around and leans on the desk and folds his arms over his chest. He says, alright, so, quick note on why I know what I know about them. Back when I was still the Inquisitor, he says, and he obviously hates talking about the stuff he had to do when he was Inquisitor, but it just keeps coming up. It's like a bad penny. Won't leave him alone. He says, back when I was the Inquisitor, when I was trying to destroy Corypheus, he was after some power in an ancient elven temple. And we thought he was after an Alluvian there, but it turns out he was after this thing called the Well of Sorrows, the Abelasan. It is ancient knowledge passed down from one supplicant of Mythal to the next. Priests going back to before the fall of Arlathan. All their knowledge accumulated into this one magical artifact, and I absorbed it. Because the alternative was Morrigan, and I don't trust Morrigan as far as I can throw her, and because at the time I still thought of myself as Dalish, like an idiot, and I thought it would be better in the hands of an elf, right? All that ancient elven knowledge, at least it would be in the hands of an elf. But everything I learned from it, the ancient Elvenon was completely different than what I thought it was. The gods that we worshipped, they were slavers, and the markings that we brand ourselves with, we thought they were honoring the elven gods. They're slave markings. Why do you think I got rid of mine?
I know you said that. And to be honest, Lannon, I didn't. I just sort of thought you were bullshitting me. I laugh kind of bitterly.
He says, it was an agonizing decision. But Solus knew a spell to get rid of the Valasleen. He'd used it on countless elven slaves before. Back when he was part of the Helathen. And he looks down at Yusabre and he says, I know the spell that he cast, if you want.
I blanch, I think, a little bit, and I'm I need to...
I know.
I don't know how to feel.
I know. Trust me, I felt the same.
I have more, Lannon. That wasn't... Justice and the others. I think they know Solus. They recognized him.
Yeah, I know. They were his comrades. It's part of the knowledge that the Abelasan passed to me. They were part of a group, freedom fighters, people who freed slaves and were intent on destroying the Evanirius. You probably know them now better as the Forgotten Ones. And the Forgotten Ones They are the evil dead gods that the Dalish decidedly do not worship. Legend twisted them past their own identities. They are known now as the Forgotten Ones, the evil gods who fought the Evanuris. History doesn't remember them as the ones that freed the slaves, the Evanuris, originally. He sighs and he sits down at the end of the bed. Like, it's hard for him to talk about, too. Like, this is completely different from all the history that the Dalish know. He says, the Dalish tried so hard to scrabble together what little scraps of culture that we were able to salvage after the Tevinter Imperium, after the fall of the Dales. And this is what we remember? The slave markings? Things that make us no better than Tevinter?
I think I'm, like, shaking a little bit as I stare at it. I'm just like, this was all so much easier when I didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know how they ended up where they are today?
He says there's a big gap in the Abelasan from the time the last supplicant of Mythal passed until I was able to reclaim it at her temple. He says, I know that Solus was the one who made the veil, that he sundered Arlathan because of it. Arlathan was a city that was built on magic. It was intrinsically tied to magic. And when he created the veil, he cast a wall between magic and the physical. And that was enough to destroy Arlathan.
This is just... And so they were cast, perhaps, into the Fade.
Yes.
Until something happened a few months ago.
He was hiding what he wanted to do from Mythal. Like, you can see him, like, accessing something. Like, there's some sort of magic humming around him. And Justice, like, lets you know he's using some kind of magic, even if it's not immediately visible. He says he was hiding what he was planning on doing to the other Evanuris from Mythal. But he had some plan for them. He was going to cast them out, but he had a specific idea. He never told her specifically where. But I think the elven gods, the Evanuris, they must still exist, trapped somewhere, perhaps.
And if they do, they're slavers.
He says if they're still alive, then yes. The blood on their hands cannot be measured.
I think I get up and I just sort of start pacing the room. Well, we have to help them then. We have to help the Forgotten Ones. We can't... Do you see why I say we can't just cast them out?
He, nods a little bit. He says, I mean, I understand, but bear in mind that Solus was also on their side, and look what he did.
Justice doesn't feel that way. He's fighting for what's right.
Justice kind of gives you a warm rumble of approval. Thanks.
Justice approves.
And ever since we, took down that chandelier, I'm feeling very, pretty fond of Justice, even if he is an asshole about Lannon.
He says, can I talk to him? Can I talk to Justice?
I look kind of reluctant, and I'm like, yes, of course. It's still weird, I think, giving, my body over to another thing, and so it makes me uncomfortable, but...
And, mid-transition, you think just to piss you off, he's like, I'm gonna kiss him for you, and then he immediately takes over your body.
Oh, fucker!
Your eyes flash white, and he looks down at Lannon, who's still sitting on the end of the bed. And the first thing Lannon says is, are you willing? Danthal, are you willing to turn against Solus? I know he was a friend of yours. Are you really willing to help us strike him down? And Danthal says, the veil. All the people in this world, they keep using that word, veil. I didn't even know what it was. But hearing your explanation, I remember him talking about a weapon. He says, that was his plan the whole time, wasn't it? To destroy Arlathan, to kill all those people. Lannon says, yep, and he's planning on doing it again. And Justice goes over to Lannon, stares down at him, and he says, you do not have to ask. I'll stand with you, even if it's against Solus. He always was too proud. It is a beautiful morning in Valroyo, Elyan. Is there anyone besides Lannon that you want to bring with you to this breakfast with Vivienne?
I hadn't thought about that.
Lannon hadn't anticipated you wanting to bring anyone, but if you did want to bring someone, he'd be fine with it. It's up to you.
Bring Cassandra as moral and Giant intimidation support.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are joking about it, but I think he might actually consider that. Like, he does consider you a friend. And you were trying to help comfort him, and I think he does recognize that, and that would be helpful when he's facing her, because they don't have good history.
So you want to take Cassandra?
I think so.
Anyone else?
I don't know that he would bring anybody else. I don't know that he would bring Leander or any of the others. Like, there's...
Sabria would be deeply uncomfortable with anything Orlesian.
Right,
Yeah.
like,
This
nope.
sounds like my nightmare.
Having brunch?
Like, is there, like, tea? Do I have to, like, use utensils?
Unbelievable. Okay. It is a beautiful morning in Valrio. You and Lannon and Cassandra are sitting at a small table in the summer bazaar in the cafe. It's nice and shaded, which protects you from the worst of the heat from the blaring sun. And you are all waiting for Vivienne to arrive. She did have farther to travel. She's coming from Montsamard, which is a good distance from Valrio. But she should be here any minute. Elyan, how are you feeling? Let's check in with Elyan.
Nervous as fuck. Like, he's trying to hide it, but he's a mess.
Lannon says, I mean, I would say that no one would dare attack you when you're with me, but, like, 6 people have tried to assassinate me in the last month, so that's not a guarantee of anything.
Thanks, Lannon.
No problem. I'm not very good at this.
Oh, you're not.
Wow, this is so fancy.
It is extremely fancy here. That's true.
I'm like, you live like this, Elyan?
Did, yes.
Wow.
And as Cassandra is being amazed at just everything, you hear a very familiar voice from behind you. Lannon, darling! And Lannon is the first to stand up and turn around, and striding into the cafe is Vivienne de Fer. About 5'10", dark-skinned, very close-cropped hair, wearing an incredible Royal sea silk gown with an amazing high-turned collar. And Lannon immediately embraces her, and she squeezes him very, very tightly, and she says, "Oh, you look awful, darling. Have you been eating well?" Lannon says, "No." And then they both sit down.
And yeah, I think that Cass just like stares at her and all just like, Lannon, am I allowed to speak to her?
Lannon says, "Yeah, what? Yes, obviously." And Vivienne says, "Well, I wasn't expecting you to bring guests, darling. To whom do I have the honor of addressing?" "Oh, this is Cassandra. She's with the Lucerne." Do you want to say anything, Cassandra? Or you just stand there like a gay idiot?
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, she's very, very pretty.
Elyan has no appreciation for this.
I mean, Elyan, I'm here for you. And I just like gape.
And Lena says, "And of course you know Elyan." She says, "Indeed I do." She sort of eyes you, not saying much. When the waiter comes around and drops off a pot of tea, she pours herself a cup.
I would say that it's good to see you again, but
"But I wouldn't want you to lie on my behalf."
exactly.
She says, "So, you're looking into the incident with the Grand Cleric, are you?" And she pulls out this huge ornate fan and starts fanning herself.
Obviously. I want to be able to come home.
She says, "Well, you're home now, though I assume you mean on a more permanent basis." She says, "And indeed it would be very dangerous for you to stay here for too long. The city remembers well the tragedy that took the Grand Cleric away."
As it should. But it wasn't my doing.
She says, "Nor indeed was it mine. But we're not here to discuss who didn't kill her, are we?" She says, "Have you heard of the dissonance?" And Lannon says, "No. What's the dissonance?" She says, "Well, I suppose you wouldn't hear of it. I know how you despise all things chantry, darling. What about you, Elyan? Have you heard of dissonance?" Go ahead and roll cultural lore. You're going to have to go pretty high to get in it to see if you... 12. No, 12 is not good enough. She says, "Well, I suppose that's to be expected when you blank on it." She says, "The Dissonance is a secret faction of the Chantry that does secret investigative work for the Divine." She says, "Grand Cleric Eloise headed it up during Divine Justinia's reign and after her tragic death at the Conclave. She says, I don't know what's become of it now. The only thing I know about Grand Cleric Eloise past that is that she and Bastien did not get along very well for the last year of his life. She takes another sip of tea. They had one meeting in Valroyot, and it didn't go very well apparently because they spent the rest of his life sniping at each other.
Why wouldn't he have told me?
He says, well, I assume because he didn't think you needed to know.
He didn't think he could use me?
This is the Chantry, dear. It's a little bit bigger than the game.
Obviously, you're right, I know, but it bothers him that there were secrets, obviously.
I squeeze your hand under the table.
Aw, he squeezed back.
She says, don't take it personally, darling. He had secrets from everyone. It's the way of things in Olay. I thought you'd be used to that by now.
No, you're right. So, you think that they're responsible?
Who, the Dissonance?
Yeah.
I sort of doubt it. She headed up the Dissonance.
Why me?
She shrugs and she says, I don't know. I am not part of the Dissonance, and I never have been. They are extremely secretive, she says. If you want a good place to start asking after what the Dissonance is doing these days, I would try Liliana. She is the Divine now. If anyone knows what this secret faction of the Chantry is up to, it would be her.
He'd already died. Why would they do something like this after? You're right. Liliana might be the best.
She says, yes. Despite my close ties to the Chantry, my being a knight enchanter in official employ by the Chantry, Dissonance is top secret sort of stuff. I suppose Bastien got a little bit too close.
This is not much. You seem to imply that it had to be a good lunch in order to make it palatable.
She says, darling, are you accusing me of holding back?
I don't know that I would dare, but...
Tell me, dear, how many people do you think even know the Dissonance exists? The Dissonance is an extremely secretive sect of the Chantry. The work they have done has been shrouded in mystery for centuries.
Oh, I suppose that it shouldn't come as a surprise. You're not particularly chatty with me. We never got on even when he was still alive.
Ooh, touched a nerve, have I, darling?
You left.
Her face gets a little cold. Yes, I did. I left because I am the only mage and alchemist skilled enough to have come up with a potion that could have saved his life. Unfortunately, I wasn't skilled enough to make it work.
You could have told me that's what you were doing. You just left. You didn't tell.
Why did I owe you an explanation? Who are you to me?
I was the one who was there. I was with him. I saw what it did every day.
And I owe you some fealty for that? He says, you were a good companion to Bastien in his final hours. I was the one trying to save his life. I don't see the point in sniping about it all these years later. I've let it go. What have you done?
How could I let it go?
What choice did I have? He's dead now. Spend the rest of my life stewing in it?
I knew you were cold.
I'm not cold, darling. I just don't like you. He says, take my advice, don't hang your ego on that. Lannon finally decides now would be a good time to intervene. Like, Vivienne, I know you're not as big of a bitch as you put up. But can you, dial it back a little bit? And Vivienne sort of sighs, takes a sip of her tea, and reaches over and, pats Lannon's hair. It's like, you always were very concerned with making sure everyone around you was comfortable, darling. She says, it's an admirable quality.
Cass is just, looking around yeah, I mean, I like you just fine, Elyan. Why do you care what she thinks about you?
Vivienne arches her eyebrows good point. She says, if you spend the rest of your life worrying about my opinion of you, darling, it's going to be a long and disappointing life.
I couldn't give a rat's.
Why are we here? Why are you sitting here beleaguering me, putting this burden on my shoulders? I was trying to save his life. You were there holding his hand. What more needs to be said? Why are you still hung up on it?
I loved him.
I loved him too. And now he's dead. So again I ask you, why are we here?
I don't know.
Well, you meditate on that for a while. She stands up, she says, Lannon, why don't we actually have dinner later tonight? Lannon's like, oh, fine. And Vivian glides out of the room. And is like, anyone else want like a bottle of wine?
Please.
Waiter! Tell me, Cassandra. So it's after lunch.
Yep.
The ship to Kirkwall doesn't leave until tomorrow morning, so you've got the rest of the afternoon to yourself, basically, to the beautiful city of Valrayo.
Mm.
But I would like to ask you about the one thing I think you're probably spending most of your time on. The letter.
Mm-hmm, exactly. That's what she needs to crack that code.
She does need to crack that code. How has that been going?
You know, there hasn't been a lot of time. Like, there's been a lot of things going on.
She's been busy. Busy.
There's been some explosions, but, you know, as soon as it's free, she's like, oh, the letter, of course. Like, it pops up into her mind, like, right, there is that thing.
How do you go about tackling this?
Yeah, that is a good question, because magic and exploding is my forte, and
ciphers, not so much.
Secret messages, not so much. So I'm just sort of like puzzling over it. And then it sort of dawns on me, you know who's good at shit like this? Bards are.
And maybe there's a particular bard who needs a little bit of a distraction.
Right. And I feel like she's gonna be like, I can't do this. I don't know what this means. And Elyan.
So paint me a picture. What do you do? How long do you give Elyan before you go knocking on his door?
Yeah, I'm gonna at least try, like, my hand at it for, let's say, like, an hour, and then just, in frustration, just, like, throw it on the bed. I'm like, this is impossible. I need someone's help. And then I go find Elyan.
Lannon got each of you rooms, because he is stacked. He just doesn't flaunt it like Dorian does.
Shame.
And you go knocking on his door. Elyan, how have you been doing in this hour or so? Post-Vivienne. Like, she's a hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, she always makes me really, really mad, so, like, not great. Has there been, like, angry playing of music or journaling? I don't know.
That's a yes.
Yep.
Probably both.
You've been angrily journaling?
Have you never anger journaled?
Dab at the page and...
Oh, you're such a nerd!
Oh man, if you don't, like, wrinkle the pages and, like, rip them out, scratch through things so hard that it tears the paper, well, you're not doing it right.
I feel like I knock on the door and I'm like, I can hear you shredding paper through the door, Elyan.
Come in, Cass.
And I come in and I'm like, I know you had an ordeal. I was there. It was an ordeal. I don't know all the history, but seemed like it was a lot. So, do you need a distraction?
Yeah.
Great.
What's up?
I received a letter in code.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. I am not good with these things and need someone to help me translate it.
I've never been particularly good at codes and ciphers, but I could try.
So there is actually a focus called cryptography.
Oh my god, you're right!
So how I think this is gonna work, like, it's not a super high DC, because I'm the one who made the cipher, and I know precisely what kind of cipher I used. So I know that it's not an uncommon kind of cipher. So why don't you, Elyan, go ahead and roll Cunning Cryptography. So, Elyan, with a 14, the big hint, right, is the last two sentences. There's obviously a couple paragraphs that are written in gibberish, but then at the very bottom of the page, there are two sentences. The first says, "You are the key." The second says, "I will be waiting." In cryptography, there are a lot of ciphers that depend on key phrases or keywords. And you think this might be one of those ciphers, and the key is almost certainly Cassandra.
Okay.
There are a bunch of different ciphers that rely on different kinds of keys. You are familiar with some, not with all. With a 14, I don't think you can immediately decode it, but you think Zevran might have a good idea. Zevran was an Antivan crow. Crows use ciphers all the time. They send each other messages all the time in cipher. So if you tell him, I think this is a key-based cipher, he'll probably know, 16 to try right now. Just immediately.
That's fair. Well, it is a cipher. There's a keyword, and I think it's your name, but I can't make heads or tails of it right now. Maybe Zevran would know?
Oh, that's true. He is very sneaky, of the sneaky sort, yes. But at least we have the key now. That is very much more than I got.
Yeah, where did you find this? Or when did you get it?
I found it already folded in my bag.
That's ominous.
In the Pavis estate?
Before we left, yes.
That's a non-zero chance. That means someone broke in, which is disconcerting.
Uh-huh.
There's also a non-zero chance it was slipped in while you were out and about in Minrathis, but,
Yeah.
Still though.
Either way,
Still,
not
though.
great.
The fact that someone went to these lengths to leave me a message in this manner tells me,
It's important.
yes, more important and dangerous.
Well, we'll just, as soon as we get back, we'll ask him. I'm sure he'd be happy to help.
Of course he would. He's Zevran, for God's sake.
Well, now that I'm part of his boyfriend's family.
Sabre, you've had a while to think about stuff, things,
Stuff and things.
stuff and things. Have you come to any conclusions, Sabre, about stuff and things?
Conclusion is that I would like to go back in time and not accept this letter. That's the conclusion that I have drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Coward.
The Arlethven is rapidly approaching, so
I think he's working himself up into a frenzy in his room, and at some point he just storms into Lannon's room or whatever.
So yep, you catch Lannon with his reading glasses and a cup of tea and a big old book open on his lap, looking like the fucking nerd he is.
Oh no.
He's such a fucking nerd.
He sounds so cute. He sounds the cutest.
And he jumps when you enter. He's like, fuck, can you not knock? Has no one in this fucking building ever heard of knocking?
No. Who knocks, honestly, Lannon? Clearly you haven't lived with a family for a while.
Lannon visibly flinches and he says, yeah, no, that's fair.
Oh.
No.
Shit.
Oh no.
I just look at him and I'm I've been agonizing over something.
He says, if it's about the Valisline, can we not do that? I've talked so much about
It's not about that. Lannon, shut up. It's not about that.
Oh. Okay. And he immediately gets a little worried. It's it's not about the tent, right? He says, and euphemism for
not. I glare at him. No, would you stop? Just stop guessing. You're making this harder.
Sorry. He pulls his glasses off and folds them up, looking awkward.
No, I think you're gonna need those. I pull the letter out and I just sort of throw it at him.
He looks at it in confusion, unfolds his reading glasses, puts them back on, and spends a while reading the letter. It's a pretty long 2.5 minutes that you're standing there waiting for him to finish reading this.
Yeah.
At a certain point, he stands up off the bed and turns his back to you as he's reading it.
I'm pacing, I think, the entire time, mentally trying to be should I leave? Maybe I should just go, but I just keep walking back and forth.
Maybe I should just jump out the window.
Yep. Maybe I should just commit ritual suicide. Maybe.
Eventually, though, he folds the letter back up, pulls off his reading glasses, sets the letter down on the desk, and says, no.
Okay, well great, that was a good answer. I grab the letter and
And he nods. He looks like he's, like, if you don't want to talk about it, he also doesn't want to talk about it.
I think as I, like, get to the door, I, like, pause. I mean, you just said that you're not used to having family.
No.
I'm like, I think I just look at him sort of hesitating. Like, I want to say more, and I...
Justice is in the back of your head. Fucking do it, coward. If you don't say it, I'm gonna take over and say it for you.
Say what? You can't do that, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna fucking evict you if you do that.
I would like to see you try. Say that he should meet her, that he should talk to her. Come on.
Oh, gods. I think I just, like, in a rush, like, so quickly, because I don't want him to, like, interrupt me. I'm just saying that you shouldn't turn down a chance to meet your family. What does it hurt?
He turns and looks at you. He says, if she had any interest in finding me again, she could have done it when I sent her a letter a month for 3 years when I was a child. She could have contacted me at any point during that. Every month for 3 years, I sent a letter to her and I tried to reach out to her. She only wants to talk to me now because I'm the Inquisitor, he says, and he, like, picks up the letter and he throws it into the fire.
I think I try to rescue it.
He lets you, like, he doesn't dive in and say, no, let it burn.
Yeah.
He lets you, but he turns his back and he stares sulkily out the window.
I, like, stamp it out with my foot. Hopefully there's a carpet in there. We've just created a mess. People make mistakes, Lannon.
Do they make mistakes once a month for 3 years? I was 8 years old and she was taken away from me and she had every opportunity to come find me if she wanted, but she didn't. And then miraculously I hear from her after I become the Inquisitor?
You're right. It's suspicious. You're right. I can understand why you feel the way you do. I do. I, like, take a step forward. But, Lannon, you don't have to forgive her. But surely, can't you just see if she's changed? Can't you just give her a chance? Just one.
He's actually crying a little bit. Oh, no. You didn't notice it until you were close enough to actually see it, but yeah, he's, doing his best to hold back tears.
I'm, like, trying to... I step forward, like, and I make half a move to touch him, but I think better of it, like, halfway
Justice
there.
in the back of your head is like, fucking do it, you absolute coward!
Fucking son of a bitch. Worst good angel.
Do it, you coward! This is the moment that you are waiting for, he says.
Everyone deserves a chance to have family, and I think I just, like, give him, like, a huge hug.
He was really trying to, like, keep it together, but, you know, he's not Superman. He has a lot of baggage assigned to his family. He lost his clan twice, technically, and dealing with it is hard. And he hugs you back, and he just sort of starts to break down in your arms.
Oh. I think I just sort of, like, I'm gonna hold him as he cries, and, just not say anything. Just sort of be there. Because anything else I say at this point, I'm not good with words.
Yeah, we noticed.
So, you all take the boat back across to Kirkwall, and then the Illuvian back into Minrathis. The climate change is so dramatic, it feels like you shouldn't be able to travel this far in, like, a day. But, magic, baby. Mm-hmm. Magic. How's everyone feeling to be back in Minrathis? Olivier is having a great time. He loves it here. Look at the size of that library! Woo! No one hates him for being a mage. Amazing!
Elyan has 100% smuggled some cheese back with him because, God, he missed the food.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I mean, it's a city. I'm not super excited to be back to a city.
You can check on your brother. And
that's
Severin,
true.
You want to talk to Severin.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I'm excited to be back where May is, so I'm like, yeah!
I think I'm always a little bit low-key worried that I'm gonna come back and, like, you know, Minrathis will be, like, on fire because Ren has, like, unleashed his demon powers and, like... So I think there is, like, a sigh of relief when I come back and I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay, it's fine.
But yeah, you guys step through to Minrathis, and actually, Ren is on his feet, and he's walking without a cane now. Severin is still kind of hovering around him, like, ready to catch him if he falls.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, he's walking around. He looks better. Like, he's been slowly progressing, but to see him walking without a cane is a big step.
This is awesome. I think I take the chance to embarrass Olivier more. And I'm like, hey, did you ever want to meet the hero for Odin?
Ren almost falls over at the sound of it, like, critters!
Weaponized celebrity. I didn't realize this was a game, but here
now
we
it's
are.
Yariel's favorite game.
Yep.
And I'm like, and Zevran.
And Olivier's still screaming in the background.
Right, I'm like,
Zevran!
yeah, like holding my ears like, can you hear me? I can barely hear myself.
Zevran's like, yes, yep, I can hear you. Hey, look at him! And he points to it. It's like, isn't that great? Amazing progress.
Yes, that is amazing progress.
Ren's like, I can walk without a cane, huzzah!
I'm just like, it has been a while in your defense. Anyway, I have a question for Zevran about ciphers.
Oh, ciphers, one of my favorite topics.
I was hoping you would say that because it has not been my favorite topic, being the one who received such a cipher.
Alright, well, now I feel a little bit bad about being sarcastic. Sure, let's have a look at this cipher.
I feel like Elyan has come over and helped Cass explain that this is a key cipher.
Yeah,
and...
I had Elyan, he's a bard, try to help me.
He walks off discussing all the types of different ciphers that he knows about, and he knows a lot of them because, yeah, I mean, you weren't wrong, the crows, they put everything in cipher. And you're bent over the dining room table together, and he's discussing what he knows, and Ren kind of puts his arm around your shoulder, Slippery, and sort of like walks you down the hallway. He's like, I need a favor, Lethalon.
What favor?
Okay, so, going to the Arlefin soon. It's coming up. Rapidly approaching. I think... And he's, like, looking back over his shoulder, kind of paranoid. I think, when we get there, and he, like, drops his voice, when we get there, I think I'm gonna ask Zevran to marry me.
Oh, God.
I need you to find a keeper who would be willing to perform the ceremony. I can't be the one to look for them because, he's gonna be around me most of the day, but I need you to find one for me. Can you do that for me?
I'm like really excited. I'm like, this is a very serious thing, Ren. And I will do it for you. But there is a caveat. You have to promise me you will never talk to me about your sex life ever again.
He says, well, you shouldn't have said that because now I know I can weaponize it against you.
I'm not joking, Ren. I'm not joking. I won't find you a fucking keeper if you don't make this fucking promise to me right now.
He says, I will stop talking about my sex life the minute you fucking ask that flat ear out.
Ooh.
That's not the deal. It's not the deal. Okay, well, I guess you don't want to marry Zevran. It's a shame. It's so sad. It's just going to be the saddest
puts you in a
thing
headlock.
where you two will just... Ow, hey,
He starts giving you aggressive noogies. It's like, I'm not walking with the limp anymore. Just a reminder.
It's a good thing you're still weak and I'm letting you win.
Oh, yeah.
I say, struggling really
yeah.
hard to get out. I finally shake him off. It's just question to you, Tessa. This is not going to be a problem, right? There's no
Nope.
It's not going to be an issue finding someone to marry.
It is, I think, both canonical. Like, if it's not canonical, it's certainly my headcanon that the Dalish are the most socially permissible of pretty much any culture on Data. It's like, yeah, we'll marry two men too. Who fucking cares?
Okay, good. Just to make sure this isn't a serious... So I could literally just find the right person and ask them, and they'll probably be like, yeah, totally, why not?
Yeah, any keeper anywhere would jump at the chance to fucking marry off the hero of Ferelden. Are you kidding?
I know, right?
Yeah, fair enough, okay.
And he says, I want to make it a surprise, obviously, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna say yes. Like, he waited 15 years. 15 years!
He's 100% gonna say yes. He's absolutely... There's no way in hell he wouldn't say yes, Ren. How could he not? Look at you. And I gesture. I'm like, well, except for the cane.
He says, hey, no more cane, so we're good, right?
No more cane.
That was the only barrier to my love, so...
I punch him in the shoulder, and I'm like, of course, Lethalon.
He says, I know my lifespan is a little bit shortened because I'm a Grey Warden, but whether it's 10 years or 50, I want to spend the rest of my life with him, and I think now's the time to do it.
I get a little bit misty-eyed, and I punch him again to cover it up.
You're like, emotions, no.
Has anyone ever told you you're bad at dealing with emotions and he punches you back?
No, stop it. I'd give him a big hug too, and I'm just like, they would have been proud.
He nods. He's keeping his own emotions in check, and he says, Yeah. I mean, they probably would have been a little pissed that I didn't marry a Dalish, but, they'd have gotten over it.
They'll get over it. It's going to be the best wedding it's ever been.
I'd rather keep it brief. I don't want to make a big thing about it.
Oh, are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure if we tell Dorian, he'll turn it into a whole event.
I'd rather not. I'd rather just, do the ceremony, swear to the oath of fealty to the creators, and then just, be done with it.
I think we can make that happen.
Is he plotting to make this the biggest wedding ever made?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I figured. Hey friends, Tessa here. If you're desperate to hear the next episode, chances are good that you can by joining our Discord server. We post links to all episodes in pre-release, and you can even chat with us and listen live as we record. Join us by going to bit.ly/CFCDiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Crit Fail Club does not advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also like it, make a post on social media about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/CFC channel, or wherever you get your podcasts.